When I touched down in Sedona that autumn, the air was cooler than I remembered. The pine trees whispered against the wind, and the faint scent of damp earth filled my lungs. After weeks of cross-country flights and sleepless nights in hotel rooms, home felt like a dream I hadn't had in years. I had come back to visit my grandmother, Margaret Carter, the woman who raised me when my parents were too busy chasing wealth and appearances. She was 82 now, frail but still strong in spirit, the kind of woman who could warm a room just by smiling. Her cottage sat at the edge of a quiet road, weathered but welcoming. As I stepped onto the porch, I could hear the creak of the old boards beneath my boots. The moment she opened the door, her silver hair gleamed in the soft lamplight, and her eyes lit up with joy. "Ethan," she said, her voice trembling. "My boy, you're home." I hugged her tightly, breathing in the faint scent of lavender and baked bread. Inside, everything looked smaller than I remembered: the worn sofa, the faded curtains, the ancient clock that still ticked stubbornly on the mantel. We sat down for tea, the steam curling into the amber glow of the evening. "How have you been managing, Grandma?" I asked, stirring sugar into my cup. "I hope the money I've been sending every month has helped a bit." Her hand stopped mid-air. "Money," she repeated softly, almost as if the word itself surprised her. "Oh, Ethan, I haven't seen a cent from you in years. But that's all right. I manage fine, with my garden and the pies I sell at the market." The spoon slipped from my hand and clattered onto the saucer. I stared at her, my heart pounding. For 2 years, I had been sending $6,000 every month, 4 for my parents and 2 for her. Every transfer went through my father, Leonard. He always said he was handling her expenses. "Don't worry, son," he'd text. "Everything's taken care of." But now, looking at her thin frame, the cracked walls, and the empty fridge behind her, I felt sick. She had been living like this while I believed she was comfortable and cared for. That night, after she went to bed, I sat in the dim light of her living room, scrolling through bank statements on my laptop. Every payment to my father's account had been confirmed. $48,000 over 2 years, gone. My stomach turned as realization settled in. Something wasn't right. The next morning, I left early under the excuse of buying groceries, though my real destination was Pinecrest Estates, the neighborhood where my parents lived. Their 2-story house looked like something out of a magazine, with polished cars in the driveway and flower beds arranged with military precision. It was hard to believe they were struggling with their antique business, as they so often claimed. My mother, Clara, opened the door, her perfume thick in the air. "Ethan," she exclaimed, her smile perfect but strained. "What a surprise." I stepped inside. The living room gleamed. A crystal chandelier hung overhead, and new furniture filled the space. My father sat in the corner reading his tablet, gold cufflinks glinting on his sleeves. "I need to ask you something," I said, not bothering with pleasantries. "The money I've been sending for Grandma, she hasn't received it." "Where is it?" The silence that followed was deafening. My father finally looked up, his face expressionless. "She must have forgotten," he said calmly. "You know how old people get." My mother nodded quickly. "She's probably saving it somewhere. You know how frugal she is." I looked at them both, their calm, rehearsed expressions, and I knew. Their lies were polished from years of practice. My gaze fell on my mother's new diamond earrings, the sleek SUV parked outside, the designer watch glinting on my father's wrist. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. They had taken every dollar meant for my grandmother and used it to fund their comfort. I wanted to shout, to break something, but instead I said quietly, "I hope you're telling the truth." Then I turned and left. Back at the cottage, Grandma was tending her small garden, her hands covered in soil. She looked up and smiled. "You didn't have to get all those groceries," she said when I returned with bags full of food. You always do too much. No, I replied softly, watching her fragile figure against the morning light. I haven't done nearly enough. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the old cottage reminded me of her sacrifices, the woman who gave up everything so I could chase my dream of flying. When my parents refused to pay for my pilot training years ago, she had taken $12,000 from her savings to help me. That money had built my future. And now, the people who turned their backs on her were the same ones stealing from her in her old age. The next evening, I went back to Pinecrest under the pretense of a family dinner. My brother, Noah, was there too, carefree and smug as ever, bragging about his new drone and latest business venture. As they laughed in the living room, I slipped into my father's office. My pulse raced as I opened the drawers, rifling through papers and receipts. There it was. Proof, receipts for luxury purchases, watches, jewelry, electronics, all dated within days of my monthly transfers. I snapped photos of everything, my hands shaking. My heart pounded in my ears as I closed the drawers and quietly slipped out. That night, back in Sedona, I compared the receipts to my bank statements. The pattern was undeniable. $48,000 meant for Grandma had gone to fund their greed. I sat in silence, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. But as I looked over at Margaret, sleeping peacefully in her worn armchair, something inside me hardened, not with anger, but with resolve. I wasn't going to let her suffer in silence. Christmas was 2 weeks away. My parents were planning a big gathering, as they did every year, with relatives and neighbors invited to admire their success. That would be my moment. I spent days preparing, gathering every receipt, every screenshot, every piece of proof. Each one told a story of deceit. And for once, I wouldn't let their lies define our family's legacy. When Christmas morning arrived, I loaded my car with gifts, groceries, and a folder thick with evidence. Grandma sat beside me, wrapped in a knitted shawl. As snowflakes drifted across the windshield, she looked at me curiously. You seem quieter than usual, she said. I smiled faintly. Just thinking, Grandma. Sometimes the hardest truths lead us to the right path. She reached over and patted my hand. Whatever it is, Ethan, face it with kindness. Truth can hurt, but it also heals. Her words stayed with me the whole drive. As we turned into Pinecrest Estates, the houses glittered with lights, and laughter floated through the air. I parked the car, my heart steady now. I knew what I had to do. This Christmas wouldn't be about decorations or gifts. It would be about truth, and giving back dignity to the one person who had never stopped believing in me. Christmas Eve came cloaked in soft snow, and the quiet hum of holiday songs echoing from open windows. Pinecrest Estates sparkled under golden lights, each house competing for perfection. My parents' home stood at the center of it all, a monument of luxury that glowed against the dark sky. As Grandma and I walked up the driveway, I could feel her trembling beside me. She clutched a small jar of homemade strawberry jam, her gift for Leonard and Clara. Even after all they'd done, her heart still reached for peace. Inside, the warmth hit us like a wave. Relatives filled the living room, laughter bouncing off crystal walls. My mother floated through the crowd, elegant as ever, her new necklace glittering in the candlelight. My father, drink in hand, was entertaining a group of guests near the fireplace. And Noah, ever the charmer, was showing off his latest gadget, a drone that cost more than my grandmother's entire annual income. When my parents spotted us, they put on the same polished smiles. Ethan. Mother. What a surprise, my father said, his tone dripping with forced cheer. Come in, come in. We sat through dinner surrounded by the illusion of happiness. Plates clinked, glasses sparkled, and laughter covered the cracks beneath the surface. But I could feel the tension simmering in my chest, every lie echoing louder with each passing second. Grandma tried to keep conversation light, but I could see her discomfort. Her coat was old and faded, her shoes worn. Next to the lavish table setting, she looked out of place, like truth sitting among illusions. After dessert was served, I rose to my feet, the room falling into a hush. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice was clear. I didn't come here just to celebrate, I said. I came to talk about something that's been hidden for too long. Every eye turned toward me. My father frowned. Ethan, what is this? I placed the folder on the table and opened it. 2 years ago, I started sending $6,000 a month, $2,000 meant for Grandma's care. But she hasn't seen a dime. Not one. I turned the pages, showing receipts, bank transfers, and photos of luxury purchases. This, I said, holding up a printed statement, is where the money went. Watches, jewelry, cars, drones. Every dollar stolen from the woman who raised us with love and honesty. Gasps rippled through the room. My father's face turned red. This is absurd. She's old. She forgets. Grandma stood before he could finish. Her voice was soft but steady. I may be old, Leonard, but I remember what it means to tell the truth. I remember the nights I worked 2 jobs, so you could have an education. I remember saving every coin to keep a roof over your head. And this, she said, pointing at the folder, this is how you repay love. The room fell silent. My mother's tears smudged her mascara. Noah looked down, shame washing over his face. My father's bravado faded, leaving only guilt behind his eyes. I didn't want to embarrass you, I continued quietly. But I couldn't stand by and watch Grandma live in poverty while you lived off her kindness. Grandma turned to me, tears glistening in her eyes. Thank you, Ethan. You've done what I couldn't. Without another word, I helped her to the door. Behind us, voices rose, accusations, denials, desperate explanations, but we didn't look back. The cold night air felt pure against my skin. For the first time in years, I felt free. The next morning, I sent a formal letter to my parents, attaching all the evidence. I demanded that the full $48,000 be returned within 30 days, or I'd take legal action. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it for justice. Weeks passed. Relatives called, shocked by what had happened. Whispers spread through Pinecrest, rumors of theft, greed, and betrayal. My father's antique shop, already struggling, began to crumble under the weight of gossip. My mother's friends stopped visiting. Even Noah's so-called partners cut ties. Then, one gray afternoon, their car pulled into Grandma's driveway. My father stepped out first, his shoulders slumped, his eyes hollow. He placed an envelope on the table. $48,000, he muttered. It's all there. I nodded. Thank you. He looked at me, bitterness clouding his gaze. We're done, Ethan. You've destroyed this family. No, I said softly. You destroyed it when you chose greed over love. They left without another word. The door closed behind them with a heavy finality, and Grandma sank into her chair, tears streaking her cheeks. I never wanted this, she whispered. I know, I said, kneeling beside her. But sometimes, truth has to break before it heals. The money repaired more than just her home. We fixed the roof, replaced the stove, and installed a proper heater for winter. The garden bloomed again, and laughter slowly returned to the little cottage. In time, life found its rhythm. My parents sold their house and moved away, their reputation ruined. Noah disappeared to Nevada, chasing another doomed dream. But I stayed. Between my flights, I spent every free day with Grandma. We baked together, planted flowers, and watched the sunset over Sedona's red cliffs. A year later, life brought someone new into my world. Her name was Lily, a nurse I met after a minor injury during a layover in Phoenix. She was gentle, grounded, and carried the same kindness I saw in Grandma. We talked for hours, and she soon became a part of my life and my heart. When I introduced her to Grandma, the two bonded instantly. Lily would visit even when I was away, cooking for her and making sure she took her medicine. Watching them laugh together filled me with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. 2 years later, I proposed to Lily under the tall pines behind Grandma's cottage. We were married in the garden that spring, surrounded by neighbors and close friends. Grandma, radiant despite her age, watched from her chair, her smile brighter than the sun. Time moved gently after that. My career flourished, but I never let it consume me again. Family, real family, was my priority. When Grandma passed away at 85, she did so peacefully in her sleep, holding our wedding photo in her hands. The day we buried her, the whole town came to honor her life. Her kindness had touched so many hearts. Standing by her grave, I felt an ache I couldn't describe, but also gratitude. She had given me everything: love, wisdom, and the strength to stand for what's right. Years have passed since then. Lily and I still live in Sedona with our daughter, whom we named Margaret. Sometimes, when the wind moves through the pines, I can almost hear Grandma's voice, gentle, steady, reminding me of the lesson she taught without ever saying it outright. That truth, once painful, became my compass in life.